How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel. The warmest, friendliest welcomes to Mr. Mortar Mike over here. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing magnificent, bro. It's been a minute and I'm ready to do it. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well because this is going to be our second installment in my newest series where we are going class by class, creating every legendary hero in Watcher of Realms, and we are going to do best in class today for marksman. If you guys missed it, I already did a video on the fighters with Ronaldo, and let me tell you, I've already told you behind the scenes, Mike, but let me tell you guys, this video will be shorter.
Definitively. Even though I have some takes. I got some hills.
But that's the beauty. That's the beauty here with Ronaldo. If you guys didn't know, if you've ever played the game, you know. But if you're watching this somehow and you've never played the game, there's more fighters in this game than every other class combined nearly. So we had 33 we talked about. Here we have less than half that, 15. So even if you want to take that Yap Express, head on the train tracks and go for an hour, Mike, we'll still come in under time.
Exactly.
Yeah. We can talk 5 minutes for each one of these guys, and the video will be 30 minutes shorter than the one with Ronaldo. All right, so off to the races, guys. Best in class, legendary marksman. Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
So I think we know how this works, but in case you don't, we've got Mike's list here, which is empty because he has not told me who it is. You're going to tell me live, right, Mike? Hero by hero?
Yes, sir. Spicy hand roast ready. I can't rub my spicy hand roast because hold the microphone over here.
And then I've got mine, which are already complete, but I don't want Mike to know mine. We're going to reveal, number by number, rank by rank, from worst to first, all of our placements. So you're going to tell me, and then I'll reveal over here. It should be really, really fun. Shall we begin?
We shall begin, bro.
I have a hunch. I have a hunch. Our number 15 is going to be the same. Do you think I'm correct?
I think you're 100% correct. So
Who do you got?
Start it
off.
Number 15 for me is definitively Allura.
Whoa!
Well, so I'm gonna tell you why.
Yes.
She's so niche a hero that she's great at what she does, but she's so niche a hero. And the crazy part is they put an epic out that's better at the job, essentially. That's what my challenge is that I have, and it's Allura at that. Allura, I don't have the damage that I want. Great for gear rate 3, but as you get to mid to late game, you already have other choices on your roster that can do most of the jobs that she can do well or better as far as damage. If you end up getting somebody like a Hatssut or something, you might as well just wrap that up. She's gonna. There's people that have summoned her and kept her in the extra hero section. So like the extra hero lobby.
The overflow.
So that's like that's just so like she's a guardian. Like she's not a bad hero. It's a hero that
she's
showed
useless.
Up and she got sunned down so quickly in the content. Like they put out a free hero that's essentially better than her. So that at an epic. So that was like I like.
You're talking about Eliza, right?
15.
Eliza.
Yeah, exactly. Eliza. Yeah. Okay. So this is good. Okay. All right. So you got Crach. All right.
Am I correct in thinking, because this is going to blow my mind, is your number 14 Crach?
Oh yes, it is.
Okay, so let's take the conversation in this direction, because I'm 99.9% sure I've got Allura right here. Yes. So maybe I'll explain why I have them flipped. Allura, I'll tell you, of these 15, and maybe of every hero in the game, except maybe Zealous, I don't know. Zealous did get better with its exclusive gear, though. Allura's my least favorite legendary. I hate her. Yeah. We're gonna mention another legendary pretty soon that I used to call He Who Shall Not Be Named, because I hate him that much. But they buffed him, and I'm willing to say his name now, as you'll see very shortly. But my thinking here, Crach in a vacuum is a way better hero than Allura, which isn't saying much, because Allura is terrible. However, Allura has a use, though there are many ways to do it better. She does have a functional use in beating key content. Like if you want to be like Ludwig kind of stages, where you want to be invisible, that awful guy, you can use her. I don't recommend it, but you can do it. And Gear Raid 3 on the right side, again, you can use her. I don't recommend it. Some of you might be saying, well, I beat it with Allura. You beat it in spite of Allura. I've said that a million times. I guarantee you I could go onto your account at the moment you beat it, plug in Brienne, and do it smoother. I promise.
Do the same job.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I will say, too, with Crach, my only reason I put Crach higher than her, the only reason is because Crach has his handicaps, mainly himself. But I usually never need that kind of range in most content. If I have a marksman, I'm trying to shoot further out. That's number one. Number two, his ult until he gets to A5 cripples him, which is not good. And it's not a short cripple. How long is that? Like a good 5 seconds?
It's 10 seconds if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
oh my god, I can't
seconds.
click on myself. No, it's 5 seconds. You're correct. My bad. You know what? It feels like 10 seconds. How about that?
Exactly. Now his exclusive does help a little bit with that, a little bit. But the only reason why I put him higher is, as far as I know, Crach has no, I call it target cap when he's attacking. His regular attack, if there's like 5 enemies there or like 50 enemies, it looks like he's hitting every last one of them every time he attacks. And that can scale to some really good damage for one hero. So that's why he's really useful in faction trials. In fact, he can hold the whole top section up there on the right-hand side basically by himself.
Yeah,
and that's some bragging rights at least. Like that's an accomplishment. That's like, you know, it's useful.
I agree. So basically, functionally, over a really long battle, you mentioned his artifact. His exclusive artifact should be making it as if the penalty isn't there. However, I say over like a long battle because you need a lot of instances for the RNG to even out. Because theoretically, you could still miss this every time. It wasn't enough that 50% of the time with misfire, which we can show you again in a second, reduces his rage regen auto and he stops doing anything. He like almost powers down like Setram. So he can't attack, so he can't build rage that way. And then rage regen auto is your passive rage regeneration per second, even when you're not attacking or being attacked. They cripple that. I think it goes from 12 to 2. We'll check in a second. So this low cost ult still takes forever to come back up. And then if you have the exclusive, it's like, well, half the time he's going to do double damage because he does 6 cannonballs instead of 3. So that could kind of even it out. But for a shorter battle, you could just miss every time. There's too much RNG in this kit. It's not strong enough. True. I'll pull that up for everybody to see right now. You did touch on something really good. He's like goated for Watcher faction trials. Specific, right? So specific, but he's so good at it. So that is like the feather in his cap. The game froze. All right, we're back. Here's Crach. You guys can see during his ultimate, his auto ultimate, misfire over here. I'll duck out of the way. For 5 seconds, he's going to do nothing, and his rage regen auto is reduced by 10. So let's go to stats, and let me show you guys what that means. So rage regen basic attack, when he does attacks, he's building rage. He can't do this for 5 seconds because he can't do anything. And his rage regen auto, instead of being 14 a second, so in those 5 seconds, he would have gotten 70 rage. It's now down. So normally his rage regen auto would be 14, which is 14 ticks of rage per second. So in 5 seconds, that's 70 rage. This reduces it by 10. So now you're getting 50 less rage in that 5 second period where already he can't do anything. And that's happening 50% of the time. So you're left with 20 rage instead of 50. That's pretty freaking huge. I mean, it should be a huge benefit that he's this low at max skill up 500 cost ultimate. But he's spending a huge chunk of time every time basically getting no rage. Combine that with the fact that he's got the lamest range. It's kind of lame rage, but the lamest range in the game. It sucks. I want to pitch you my solution to Crach, all right?
Okay, let's hear it. Ooh.
And this would knock him up the list a decent bit. Like not into the top 10 maybe, but maybe towards that like 11, 12. And he'd be usable.
Usable in more content than triangles, yeah.
Yeah.
Reliably usable.
It would definitely knock him off. Like no one would say Crach anymore. It's not going to make him OP. All right, so right now you can get rid of misfire, which I've done fortunately by getting him A5. That's what it takes. You have to get this guy A5 to remove the chance of misfire and make him like functional at all. It's crazy.
Fully awake.
So the first change, make that his A1. Make his A1.
Yeah.
The reduction of misfire. A hero like Brunor, who's like also a godforsaken mess of a dwarf hero, and it makes me very sad. He loses.
I want the dwarves to get a life. I want the dwarves to get an upgrade. It has to happen eventually.
Oh, sorry. It's not Brunor I'm talking about. Brunor also loses that horrible thing where he has his attack speed reduced and becomes terrible after his ultimate at A5. But Amani, here's an example. This is just an epic hero. She no longer enters a weakened state after her ultimate, already at A1. You can see she's got a good ultimate, and then she's weakened afterwards. She becomes overloaded, I believe it says. Let's check that out here. So that ends. You can remove that with just one awakening. With Crach, make it A1. That's solution 1. Number 2, it's simple. I also officially suggested this to them once, and it got like a couple hundred likes, and they still ignored it. Number 2, give him dual faction membership in Piercer.
Yep.
And then when he's with whoever it is, Yovar or Lunaria or Eliza or Araka, give him Iax range instead of Crach range, and then you're good.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah,
That's literally all you need because he does have some good things in his kit. Mainly, like I said, being able to hit so many targets at once is wonderful, but it's very restrictive because there's a lot of content you don't do that in. So
totally. And then, to wrap up with the Laura, for anyone saying, oh, but she's invisible, she's so easy for the right side, this, that, and the other. Her stats are terrible. Her multipliers are terrible. She is not easy to use. You're crazy. I promise, if you beat Gear 321 with her, you beat it in spite of her.
Good gear in her.
Yeah. You could have done it with no right side, or you could have just used like a Brienne over there. I promise you. Shall we move on to some more fun heroes?
Yes, sir. Now, this is going to be a hot take, bro.
Okay.
Do you want to do yours first or mine first?
Always yours first.
Oh, man. Okay. I might get some unsubs from this one. Okay, get ready. Okay, I'm going to put number 13. Number 13 for me is Lucius. I put him low on the list. Exactly.
I need to do that. That meme where the guy's like...
Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right, guys. Thanks so much to Mortar Mike for coming on the channel. That's an ice cold take. All right, come on, dig yourself out of this hole. Go.
Okay. I put it for Lucius for one reason in particular. Well, there's a couple more, but let's start with the first. The very first one, Lucius does not do damage. Maybe I'm using him wrong. I gotta be built him wrong. I have to. I am not getting consistent damage from Lucius. He's very unreliable. If you put him in an auto run and you come back, all your guys are dead, and you're seeing a lower score because he decided, you know what, it's demon time, and we're not on demon time right now. No pun intended. But that's number 2. He's, to me, as far maybe I have him built wrong. We can check it or something. I see him as a support marksman that isn't supportive. The right content to me isn't here yet. Yeah, APOC 2 was a good introduction for him, but he removes a ton of buffs at once. And I mean, we got Kagiri as a limited that can do that job better, and in the same faction. So he's ground unit instead of platform unit, but he does the job way better than he does, way more consistently than he does. And I'm always mindful of when somebody shuts out a hero, as far as how useful they can. That's when I'm like, okay, that's when the hero goes down in the tier for me. Now, don't get me wrong, he still can do the job well. But for me, I'm not getting the damage I like to get out of him. Maybe I'm using the ult from him. That could be it. And, why even wait that long for, an APOC 2 because Kagiri can solo the debuffs, is more reliable, and in my case can do 8 to 10 times the damage that I'm getting from Lucius. Maybe I have him built wrong, but that's big on me. If I have a hero that does more damage and does the job better in what I'm using him in right now, why am I going to continue using this hero? That's my take. I know it's a hot take. But I had to put him lower in the list. I
would just describe it as a wrong take. But I think my Lucius is, I have Lucius much, much higher on this list. So maybe I can counter it at that point.
Okay.
What I will say is there is a difficulty and a clunkiness to using him because you have to track his demonic embrace. And as he gets the stacks of damnation, I believe it's called, this thing over here, it's very annoying. But if you can do it, Lucius does literally so much more damage than Kagiri until Kagiri's at A3. It's not even close. And Lucius also for Guild Boss 1 now that meta with Sung Wukong and Kagiri and Lucius and Leia or Ingrid has come. I mean, his damage is unbelievable. If he had dual faction and marksman and piercers, he would be so high on my list. But he's already pretty high. You'll see. Anyway,
I got work to do with him, man. But I've been let down so many times in APOC 2. He's kept going down my list.
Yeah,
he was filling crashes for me, and the fact that every time I needed him, he was like, you know what, I'm doing something else.
He's hard to use for sure. I'll tell you, you might see with my Lucius here, I've got him A4. I've had a 6th copy to make him A5 forever, and I've been waiting to do a video to show off how much damage he can do. I guess I'm gonna have to do that video a lot sooner rather than later because it's crazy. I don't know if you saw, but at number 13 I had Calypso. This is actually a hero I really like. To me, it's a definitive bottom 2, and then I'll just tell people how my list works. 13 through 10 are pretty close, and then I find it a very definitive top 9.
It's challenging. The top ones are hard. It's tough because it's so little amount of them. It was tough for me at the end of it. It's tough for me on that.
I had such an easier time with this than the fighters. I got to be honest. I have to be honest. Let me tell you here with Calypso, she's a hero I like. All these next heroes are all at least fine. The problem with the Calypso is she's pretty outclassed by a lot of other heroes that do the exact same thing. She takes too long to get going, to the point where you're not even taking advantage of like her low cost as a single target marksman. Because if you guys don't know, every time she ults, she summons a seal stone that attacks along with her. She can do this 4 times. If you get her up to A5, like I have her, she can do it 5 times, which is phenomenal. And at the time when Styx came out, it was like, wow, she's at least goated for this. At this point, she's out of my Styx team, even though I have like a lightning quick, like 0.9 second attack interval A5 Calypso, because they release Sun Wukong, they release Helga for free at the time, this, that, and the other. It just, you know, once you get, if you got a Setram, who we'll talk about later, she's just outclassed in the one thing she's super shined in. I still like her. I still use her on takeovers over, for example, Liam. If the account I'm on, Liam's amazing. Liam, the not epic, I was gonna say the uncommon, the green marksman. He is amazing, but that's contingent upon having other DPS sources that can pick him up at the beginning. And I hit that wall a lot. Calypso has filled that void for me often, and that's it. That's the only places I've ever used her. Like, you can kind of get her to go in Void Rift, but it's really like a desperation gear aid 3 move, and then Styx if you don't have the other top options, which is cool, but it's one of 6 Codex bosses. So as much as I do like her, she takes too long to get going, and the damage isn't high enough when she gets going, when there are heroes out there like Lucius, you know, not even to talk about Hex or Silus or, you know, Lady Alex, the crazy people at the top, even just any of the other ones. I don't think the DPS is at the level. But for a single target piercing damage, it's pretty good. I just think a lot of content, I'm just going to use Brienne. You'll hear me mention Brienne a lot, I think, just because.
Yeah. I mean, you get all that you need in much faster time frame with Brienne, and easier to get A5. You're going to laugh at this.
Yeah, and easier to skill up too. Like my Calypso's fully skilled up, so she can do like a lot of damage, but it's still nothing compared to the rest of the heroes I have. And most people aren't skilling her up. Who do you have at number 12?
True. So number 12 is Calypso.
That checks out.
She was not escaping this list. She's going to be down that number.
So actually, our bottom 3 are the same, assuming you hadn't made a dumbass decision.
Look, I need to find out what my Lucius is doing wrong. Maybe he's taking too many smoke breaks. Maybe he has the attack speed too high. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, Lucius is not Lucius.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, if you want him for DPS, then you want his attack speed really fast, right?
Okay.
Because you want to get you want those. We'll talk about it when it comes back up. Let me show you my number 12. Do you have any final, like, put a bow on it, thoughts for Calypso?
The same thing you said with her being, you know, good in Styx boss, because she's been in the game longer. You got a better chance of having a higher weight gain. You probably put a little more time into her. You might have accidentally put some skill crystals in there. You know how it goes. But the problem with that is when Styx boss first came out, you could just circumvent the shield. So even thinking of using her was out of the window at all. And now you go get more benefit for hitting the shield, but at the same time, that ramp up of damage takes too long for such little payout. I do want to max out her exclusive, see if I can get something from that, or she gets some exclusive gear that can help. But it's kind of like too little, too late for her. Yeah. So that's why I put her at number 12.
I tested her with her exclusive artifact and exclusive gear, and it helps. Not enough. Like, it helps. She's better, but it doesn't turn her into the top guys at all. What do you think about if I reveal my 12 and 11 together? Because this was a very tough call for me. Can I do that?
Go for it.
All right. So at 12 we have Kai. That's who used to be called He Who Shall Not Be Named, but he did get buffed and he's way better. And then, he's way better for everything except for those really weird RNG GVG defenses. So to the 6 of you out there disappointed, tough. Number 11.
Look, it's funny. As you say that, I have a tiny hill for Kai. Not a big one. I'll let you do your thing.
Well, I'm actually going to be complimenting Kai. I originally, when I first did my first run through this list, I was telling you before we filmed, I like slept on it for like 30 minutes and thought about it. I had Kai above Razaak. I ended up switching it for one specific reason. But Kai, for almost all content, is as good as Razaak right now, I would say. There's one specific thing Razaak is better at, and for that reason, Razaak got the bump, which I'll discuss in 1 second. If you guys don't know, Kai got buffed. He's much, much more consistent in placing his snares and can attack while he does it. They blow up a lot
Yes.
more. There's more crowd control. There's more DPS, less RNG, so not as good for something like a Guild Wars, but it's just, he's better. Like the DPS, he can do it. 321, the same way with a Razaak or a Maul or a Nyx. It doesn't take such a crazy build. Kai has joined that conversation. He can totally do it. This passive over here is really good if you're progressing and you're desperate. Every time he is going to do a cluster projectile and it hits, he's going to increase damage dealt to airborne units for all allied marksmen, not even just piercers, all marksmen.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty cool thing. It goes up to 20% damage. It can last 15 seconds. So those cluster hits are contingent upon his ultimate, but it's somewhat frequent because this ult can go down to 700. I believe it used to be 800. Now it's 700. You can spam it pretty quick. He's slow as heck, like all of the AoE long distance piercers, like same as Nyx, same as Razaak, same as Maul, for example. But you know, with skill ups, if you choose to invest in him, it's a niche thing. You're getting 15-second uptime. Probably you're going to get maybe 30 seconds in between ults. So you're talking like a 1/3 uptime on a pretty huge bonus, and you can time this out in Gear Aid 3 to be like, I really want Idril to hit now, or I really want Calypso or Silus, whatever you're working with, right? Any marksman, Lucius, it doesn't have to be a piercer, like I said. So he had a big glow up. Why did I do Razaak? You're probably wondering, Mike, why did I do Razaak ahead of him? It's as simple as this burst is bursty as heck. So this makes Razaak, I'd say, a definitive 3rd tier option for Gear Aid 221. To solo DPS it, which like, yeah, he's not to the level of like Hatssut or Comet or Virna. I'd probably put Hatssut. Hatssut is in a league of her own, and then I put Comet and Virna, and then she's right there with the other bunch that can do it. Like you can cook with Anora, you can make it work with Ingrid, this, that, and the other. He's right there, and it works. So he's helping you in 2 huge progression areas, where Kai is limited basically to helping you in Gear 3 and Furious Torrent. Razaak's still awesome in Furious Torrent. It's not like I think Kai's better. It's that 20% damage, because unless you have him skilled up, it's not going to make such a crazy difference. And then Razaak gets that edge in Gear Aid 2, and even helping you out a little more in things like Void Rift, in my opinion. So that's why I did that. Who do you have at number 11?
Okay, I can agree with you on that. Here's what's funny about it. My number 11 is also Kai.
We really have.
We're vibing a little bit here. We're getting there. We're getting there.
There's one horrible mistake, and then the rest of the list looks beautiful, Mike.
Look, it's his fault, not mine.
Oh, yeah.
But I say also, I agree with you on that. Like, the lockdown ability of Kai needs to be studied. Let's be clear here. The OG Kai, he would throw his things out way further, which was really good for GVG because it was such RNG that you didn't know what to expect. But the new one, they're much closer, so it's little to work with there. Like you read before in Eradication Protocol, he's a great partner marksman to any other marksman. That's what I like about him. You can set him up for traps, they can do tons of damage, and that he makes other marksmen better. He has pretty good CC and damage combos against mobs. His rework definitely changed his damage output. And in Pelagios Torrent, it helped me get triple S. That was something I changed. I actually went and leveled him up, and people was like, oh, Kai, yada, yada. I was like, even without his traps, that damage boost took my entire team to triple S.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a big deal. Like, it's like, oh, you don't like the kid. It's like, but he does the job he needs to do well. And his cluster bombs do way more damage than they used to do. Because now they can track targets and stuff too. So.
Well, and he used to not be able to put out a basic attack if he was placing a snare, which was like basically a bug.
Terrible.
Yeah. So he is way better. What's cool, but you kind of touch on, because his damage is better, you can kind of sit on his ult for the right moment. So what I'm saying here, and actually for a specific account, this makes him better than a Razaak, for example. Maybe even better than a Nyx in an all else equal specific situation. Let's say you have a bound Silus, a binded Silus or whatever. You're trying to nuke down that boss, and you just keep getting stuck at 6%. You line up that Silus ult, Dolores ult with the Kai ult, that will be the difference, right? So that's pretty spicy. I'm gonna have to rub my hands over that one. So we both are like way higher on Kai than I'm sure we both used to be.
Exactly.
Do you have Razaak at number 10, or why did you or is he gonna come up a little later?
He's going to come up a little bit later.
Okay.
I have a real good reason for it.
So maybe let's tuck Razaak away for now. You can talk about him briefly later, and you can maybe explain why you also had him ahead of Kai. I guess a lot ahead of Kai. Who do you have at number 10?
Okay, so who I have at number 10? I have Micah.
Oh, yeah.
I have Micah at number 10.
We're the same, baby. We're the same.
Yeah, great hero. Lots of potential, but for me, the damage didn't show up where I wanted to. But now that I know that she's much more of a shield breaker champion, which is great. She's a great alternative to Setram, which is nice. But I was expecting a lot more damage from her when I read her kit. Like, Conflagration is insane. I can imagine when she gets to A5, the damage is going to be way better. But to see like essentially most of her kit goes in the trash when she even goes against Arbiter of Frost, I'm like, it's supposed to be amazing at this stuff. What are you doing? So that was my issue with her. Setram's still the goat at what he does. Plus, I can use Setram as Sticks boss. Like, if I'm comparing the job she's coming to take over, for the most part, like, Setram still does stuff different. But essentially, people are looking at her as a backup of Setram. That's the first thing I'm looking at. A Fully Awakened her, can get more out of that. But I remember reading her kit. I think I read it with Destiny, and I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And then I started using her. I was like, it's not what I was looking for. So that was my issue with her. If she had higher attack, I put a lot more of this conversation in there, like another like 400, 500 attack. Put more in the conversation with her. But for now, it's not doing what I've gotten used to doing. That's a better way to put it. If you have her and she's your only option, go to town, use her. She'll be great for the job. But I'm comparing her to the other options in the job that she does primarily, or she's known to do. And the other one is still the one I prefer.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up with our first same rating. Our ratings could have all been the same without one mistake over here. Not to mention that again. But yeah, if we look over here at Micah, to me, this is a definitive like bottom 6, top 9. Obviously, the top of the top is going to be the even better. Like I'll mention the next kind of tier delineation. But yeah, very much it was like I knew who 9 was, and then it's like who are the next 6. Micah, one thing you didn't mention, she is magic damage dealing, which makes her very unique. It's like her, Hex, and Pelagios, I believe. Pelagios really unique because he does so much true damage as well, and putting out the Radiant Erosion, which is another source of true damage. But I think she's slept on because it seems like so many people have Hex now. But if you don't have Hex, awesome. Micah has marksman range, which is so rare for a magic DPS platformer, right? She's single target magic, which is niche. You don't really need it for that many things. But if you think of like things in Void Rift or like Gear Raid 5, Gear Dungeon 2, that top thing that Hex does, you have to basically use a fighter, or you only have 2 other options besides Hex. It's Soul Cadence, who like, congrats, you got Soul Cadence, or it's the free hero, Micah. Micah can do it. Her DPS is underwhelming, and that sucks, and that's why she's not higher. I think we all were more hopeful. That being said, she can be a key component to so many 50k teams. Like, yeah, if you have Setram, he is better in like almost every way, and he's just more versatile, so he's more worthy of your skill ups. But she's dealing that magic damage with that 3x4 range, so there's just content where like Comet literally can't reach because they're in that corner, right? That's the difference. Like if you have him here and the clone is here, which is how it works in Gear Raid 5, like Comet can't do that. Like Seraphina can't do that. Glacius can't do that. She can, I guess Glacius can do it if you get some hits out first. But you know what I'm saying? She's very unique in this aspect, and I really, really like her for that reason. That's why she kind of was the top of my bottom, for lack of a better way of saying it.
It's like we're comparing heroes that are amazing in this category. This isn't like a lot of mid. There's a lot of amazing marksmen. So for her to hit that range is still notable.
Yeah, and she's really unique, right? Because it's just her. It's for the marksman. It's just her and Hex that do the single target. So for that reason, it's like Calypso. It's like, well, we also have Silus and Lady Alex, and if we talk about Yovar, it's like these super cream of the crop. If you just have one, Calypso's dead to you, right? Where it's her, it's like if you don't have Hex, you can make some good use of her. So I like that. I do want to say, you mentioned Awakenings, Moonton. You have to add her to the pool of heroes, or you have to give us a free to play way to get Micah Awakening Soul Stones.
Because I'm not going to Soul Stone Micah to see. I'm not going to mess around.
No one in their right mind is ever doing that. I mean, the A1's cool, the A2 is huge because her attack is too low. This guaranteed crit is unnecessary. This needs to be reworked. Maybe this should turn, what I would do if this A3 was like Blazing Plume would be 6 hits or 9 hits instead of 3 hits, like then we're cooking, right? A4, the pen,
or even she got more stacks of burning because she gets benefits from burning. I would be okay with that.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and then the A4 penetration at 5%, where like almost every other legendary gets 8%. That's really weird. Yeah. And then at A5, like this is crazy, but like who's getting an A5 Micah? So she's not in the hero pool. So every single player has her A0 unless they're a lunatic and use soul stones on her. So we need a solution. Until then, she's not going to be higher. She needs a slight rework, but she's unique enough. She's good enough. Her shield damage is pretty badass. Speaking of badass,
that Awaken part too, because I didn't think about that compared to Setram. Like you can give many more Setram and just make them better overall.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, speaking of badass shield damage, I'm just gonna go to mine right now because it's a great transition. This is where I've got Setram. Who do you have at number 9, Mike?
Okay. At number 8 is number 9.
Number 9.
Okay, number 9. This is more of a hot take. Number 9, I actually have Sargak. at number 9.
All right.
He's a good damage dealer. He's great for GVG. He's a pest to deal with if you can't get to him. The only problem is if you don't have Legion Carnelian in play, he's easy eats. So that's a little bit of an issue for me. I like the bleed procs, the extra ignore defense. It's also good for him too. But for me, that's kind of where it ends for me. Being that he's a Chaos Hero, Chaos Heroes are very niche. Don't have support around Chaos Heroes. They're in and out before you know it. And there's not a lot of content outside of GVG where I end up using Sargak. Me personally, I don't use him as much as I thought I was going to. GVG, he's wonderful, he's awesome, but I end up finding better options that work. And he's very specific onto what season you're in. There's some maps you're not even going to touch him, but there's other ones where he's going to do wonderful. So I'm like, I put him at that list. I still think he's above like Micah or something because his damage is incredible. But I kind of put him at that. That's like the highest I can get Sargak on this.
Yeah. Obviously, I disagree because I have him higher. We'll talk about him in a little bit. I definitely have more uses for him that I'll discuss outside of GVG. But I will say I hate this guy in GVG. I don't have him, and I have to go up against him all the time. He's freaking brutal. I'll go pretty quick on Setram, and then maybe we'll talk more about him when we get to your rating. Setram's one of my favorite heroes. I just got him A5, which is really fun. He's an amazing BP mule, so that gives him a big boost. I love him. He's got a great exclusive gear and artifact that's all synergized very well. It simply comes down to he's just a little clunky. I mean, we're in like the top echelon now. This top 9, like I said, is so much better than it's just such a huge jump, in my opinion, from Micah to Setram. This guy is the key for so many people to unlock 50k GB on Guild Boss 1 in the Drake. And I think it is slept on because people go, oh, I looked and he didn't do that much damage. It's like, yeah, your whole team did more damage because that shield went down in 2 seconds.
Exactly. Shield damage does not show up on that roster.
At all.
Whole shield down.
The only damage counts. Damage only counts if it's getting blood. So that damage is like null and void, but he's doing so much of it. And if you can get him A1, he's making other people do so much of it. And like, this is a hero you can actually get awakenings for. He's just phenomenal. It's just, he's going to get outclassed later on. Like, you're not going to use him in either guild boss eventually, right? He's a goat.
If you care beyond getting 50k, because if you get 50k, you lock it in and you just leave him there.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah. Guild boss 2, you're never going to use him.
That's true.
He's great in Void Rift. Gear A3, I think he's completely overrated. I would never choose to use him unless I was really strapped for options, like one of those situations where it's like just Idril, and I didn't have enough gear to like really work with Liam, so I had to cycle a Setram in. I never use him. So I really do like him, but to me, he's like kind of like a GB1 goat, a Styx goat, fantastic in Void Rift, and then kind of nowadays, he cannot be used in PvP, whether that be Arena or Guild Wars.
That's true.
Back in the day. Yeah, he's just kind of, the game's outgrown him slightly, but he's still phenomenal. And if you get him before like day 100 or 200, depending on how fast you're progressing, like I was lucky enough to, and many people do, completely game changing. And Guild Boss 1 is the most important content in the game. I will die on that hill. People underrate how many times a week they're hitting that 200 diamonds, baby. Like, it's huge. It's huge.
Look, I look forward to the 200 diamonds more than summons. If I get like most of the time, I was like, if it's purple, was it at least 200 diamonds?
Yeah.
That's what I'm always saying.
It used to always be that, but now they made so many other purple chests that not as reliable. But yeah, Setram, love him. But he's just, you're gonna see that. I mean, this is before people start screaming in the comments. Think about who would you actually put. Like, I had this problem on my video with Ronaldo. Like, Zelo2 is way too low on Ronaldo's list, right? Or way too high on my list. He had her at like 13, which is crazy low. I had her at 4, which was too high. I actually just redid my list because I think I will be publishing this on the website eventually. I moved her down to like 7. But think about who you would, people are like, how does he not have Zelo2 top 10? Think about who you'd knock out of the top 10, right? So Setram at 9 might seem low, but when you see these 8, you're going to be like, wow, that's a crazy 8. Or when you see Mike's next 8, you're going to understand maybe why, in your opinion, Sargak was 9. So speaking of 8, who do you have at number 8?
So number 8, I have as Razaak. He's not escaping this list. He's staying within that range. Same thing we were saying before, but I want to mention another thing too. This fish was a menace in one of the seasons of GVG. If I'm not mistaken, there was a season, I think it was the same season that Garnet Guard got introduced to the game. There was a season in GVG where on the top right corner, there was a spot that essentially could not be hit by most options you had. And if you put Razaak up there and aimed him down, I had mine at A5. He would slap everything. He would ruin every strategy that came through the portal with this ult, and then at A5, he has a chance of doing it twice. You have no way of predicting it. You have no way of stopping it. And so I'll have moments where he can just straight one-shot the lightning, what is the lightning guards? What called? Floaters. He'll just knock them off the sky. And that's 10 energy gone, and part of that strategy is gone. Also, the soul-eating fish do a ton of damage. I mean, we're talking about if this thing pulls off, it's 2,000% damage. That's 1,000% twice. Yeah. And then he gets more damage to do after that. So another thing I gotta say that while I slept on this for the longest, but now I'm a big fan of it, his exclusive artifact is called Tidebreaker. When I first saw this thing, I legit thought it was one of the worst artifacts of the game. But I was like, okay, why do we have this? Why are we using it? It literally makes him weak. But then I was like, okay, it's got to be some instance where he can never be hit. Lo and behold, there's a GVG map where he can never be hit, and he does a boatload of damage. And if I'm not mistaken, I have that. I'm going to check it right now just to make sure I can see it here. I got his Tidebreaker maxed out. So
it goes to 40.
So now it's 40 for 15 seconds, which is crazy damage. Considering he's already doing 2,000 if he's doubling that ult. And you can't plan around it. If it ruins your strat, it ruins your strat. And I thought that was such a big deal and so niche that it works really, really well. It's also great in Pelagios Torrent Codex. He's very slept on because he's an older hero, but he gets the job done very well. It's just people are like, oh, he's always not great. Old heroes can still do the job very well. He's one of those to stand up on the list for me.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with anything you said. You did use the word niche, and to me that is pretty niche. So that's why I had him a little.
It's niche, but it's like in-game niche, and that's a big block for people that's trying to be competitive. Which
That's
you're right.
fair. Yeah. My thing with Razaak is it's like, besides like something very specific like that on a specific GVG map, where also like to me, Piercer is just like Araka's kind of fallen off. So like do you have Yovar? Is that?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah. So I feel like it's kind of, when it starts getting that really dependent, it's not as appealing to me for like the bigger picture, but I hear what you're saying. He hits really hard. It's really good. It's not as constant and punishing as Nyx. So he's really on a whole class below her. Obviously, we both are going to have Nyx a lot higher here. That Tidebreaker is kind of cool. I did my exclusive artifacts rankings yesterday. That video probably will come out today. This video won't come out today, obviously.
Understandable, brother.
But with Tidebreaker, it's interesting because it's like just damage, which is like kind of lame, exactly. But there's no way to get some big attack boost. So it's like, if you think of that, like compared to we hate in the video, you'll see we hate Comet's exclusive because it's just damage, just AoE damage. That's lame when you could just run a tier Twilight and crank the attack to the moon. You don't have an option like that. So Tidebreaker actually is, I think we ended up rating it S. Not S+, but it is a very good artifact. I definitely agree. For me, Razaak, as I said before, or did I say before? I said we were going to come back to it. I think I said we were going to come back to it. Essentially, he's really good for Gear Raid 3, easily replaced by Nyx or Maul or Kai, so that loses a little shine. Really good in Torrent, kind of irreplaceable unless you have all the meta units, so that is a big plus for him. And then the final thing I'd say that gave him the bump for me, but doesn't bump everything too much because I think he's clunky in other kind of progression content like Campaign and Void Rift, where obviously you can use him, is Gear Raid 2. He is a nice option because that burst be bursting. There's Mr. Razaak.
Drop down and have his ult almost ready immediately is
that's
like
true
that
too.
Heavy hit immediately is crazy.
Totally, yeah. That actually is worth showing and mentioning. It's like an insta ult because it's kind of like Hatssut. I believe Hatssut is 600 and 700, right? Let me actually double check that.
So like 90% ready too.
Yeah, so he comes in. Yeah, this goes up to 600 and this comes down to 700. He comes in. It's 800 and he already has 700. So with the skill ups, the boy cooks. I've got Pelagios for people who didn't see. All these are great heroes, as said. Pelagios, really unique. He definitely gets a bump by being an Arbiter, so he's like someone you can slot in. However, I do think he's one of the Arbiters that's harder to fit in with the other Arbiters. Like for a Guild Wars defense, like goated with Praetus, right? Yeah. For very specific Gear Raid 1 strats, him and Praetus is amazing. But for a lot of that Arbiter stuff where you want to like him to pop off with all the other Arbiter Kings, it's like you're going to go for a Jira or a Alistair or someone single target-y, putting out more consistent single target radiant erosion, or you doing something with it, this, that, and the other. So if you're thinking like Arbiter Frost, or you're thinking Guild Boss 2, or even if you wanted to do Arbiter and Guild Boss 1, which I don't recommend, you just never would use him. So his Arbiterness, I think, is restricted to certain specific arena stuff, phenomenal in GVG, and then very, frankly, off-meta Gear Raid 1. It's easier to go Esotericist or Cultist. So that isn't, even nowadays, it might even be easier with Watcher, because you only need one Watcher to clear the whole thing. Ingrid is completely broken for Gear Raid 1. So he kind of, the places he really...
We're competing? What do you mean we're defending? What do you mean we're fighting back?
What do you mean you need gear? But with this arbitrariness, I think outside of GVG, it's kind of not too special. It kind of had a moment in Arena, but I'm not seeing him as much there now. So then you think about what he's good at for PvE, and for a lot of stuff, he's really good. He's just Piercer in that case, because you're not using him as an arbiter. And it's like, are you using a Piercer lore just for him? Because that's what it would be, right? So if you brought him into Gear Raid for Gear Dungeon 1, you'd want a Piercer lord for him to make him work, unless you were running a very unique Praetus thing, which again, you can do, but it's off meta. So like I can't give him a huge plus for that. He can work on the bottom. The gearing requirement's harder than some of the other mage options you can easily lean into with very consistent and relevant lords to help out your whole comp, not just the one specific DPS. And then Gear Raid 1, he's very slept on in Gear Raid 1, but again, it's off meta. It's not the same thing. So I love him. He's really good. Very unique. There's tons of true damage in this kit. He's completely broken if you're willing to spam it over and over in Furious Torrent, because by the end of that battle, it's such consistent. These tides start at 12 seconds with true damage AoE, but they're a lot less than 12 seconds later on. You see, as the battle goes on, they just keep coming and coming and coming.
And he's getting more upset as the time goes. He's like, oh, you're sending more. Okay, bet. All right.
I also really like the vortex that he creates. Is that this over here? He's at that tidal vortex where he really sucks like everyone to one spot, which is pretty nice. I actually just did a Gear Raid 1 takeover where I've been doing so many takeovers lately. I was like, let's just do Arbiter for Gear Raid 1. And it was way harder than if I just used his cultists or whatever, but I did it. And it was cool to see. So I could see like that vortex, the tons of true damage, especially for longer battles, scaling better and better and better with new content. But as it stands now, he's a very powerful, but in my opinion, kind of niche and slightly without a home kind of hero.
Yeah, and also the part you have to kind of limit him to is he's an Arbiter exclusive. So he's harder to get notoriously than most of the other options on this list.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true for sure.
So like if he had dual faction as cultist, because he also has the vortex, then like he'd be popping off, because then you kind of would have these two solutions. But with Piercer, he's not getting any of the benefit besides like a little bit more range or the increased damage he's going to get from Araka or Yovar, which is cool, but I'd rather him get those CC bonuses and cool stuff and fit onto those other comps. But I do like him a lot. Who do you have, Mr. Mike, at number 7?
At number 7, we spoke about him before. This is where he parks on my list. It is Setram.
Okay. Any things you want to add to the Setram convo?
He is the OG shield breaker. He's the original shield breaker. And it's funny, if you don't know that when you're playing with him, like, okay, he's no damage is okay. But once you start to actually use him for his job of breaking shields and doing some chip damage on top of that, he is like the best at what he does. And then you got to add on the fact that if you get the exclusive artifact leveled up, it might change your timings a little bit, but that's even more damage you can get out of him. One more thing, he's a necessity against Styx Codex. He's basically going to take care of Styx Codex for you. If you level him up, he's going to be great for Styx Codex. And there was one more thing that I wanted to add in that. Can I remember what it was? I'm going to remember what it was.
If you want to take a peek, I can explain a really cool thing with Setram. So the max attack speed in this game is 1200. So with Setram, as long as you know he's going to ult when you need him to ult, you can go into attack speed as much as you want, because it's also going to help the ult come back around. But when he does that, it gets up to 1200. I believe, I want to say he's at 3.0. Let's check. 3.5, so the same as like Nyx or something. But this will bring him down to like 1 second, if not faster. By the time he gets up to 1200, he's like just lightning quick. That's why he literally looks like one of those crazy Gatling gun kind of things going on. So the amount of hits he gets out for Styx is just crazy. And then by the time he reaches that attack speed, which maximum, which only takes a couple seconds, this ult lasts 15 seconds. But if you get him A5, it lasts 20 seconds. And if you have a max out exclusive, it lasts, I believe, 22 and a half seconds. No, it goes all the way up, I think, another 5. I'll have to see what it is at max. We can pull the website up right now. He has a huge amount of time then where he's at that max attack speed and has that overloaded effect. And then the damage is kind of crazy. It's just, as I said, I think with the way the game's developed right now, he's just slightly niche. Did you find the thing you were looking for?
Yes, I remember what it was, and he was probably the, besides getting like Twin Fiend, he was the person that helped me beat Faction Trials, because he would remove those giant shields.
Yeah.
That made it more damage I had to accommodate for. All I had to do was time Setram. I can knock those shields out, and I can do my big attack within that window and wipe the boss out in one shot him, basically. Yeah. With a Twin Fiend I just gotten used to. So he made that content so much easier, and he can keep the pressure on the boss too, so it's great too.
Totally. Actually, that's something we should have mentioned about Micah. She can help so much there too. Setram is way better, but she's a free-to-play option since you're guaranteed to get her from the fusion. That is going to make it more accessible because for certain, depending on who you pull, Infernals is the hardest faction trial. So Setram's goated for it, but Micah's also an option. I was right originally. I shouldn't have doubted myself. 7.5 seconds at max. So if you have his ult max, plus you have him A5, plus you have this max, you're talking 20... Oh, excuse me. No, sorry. It increases the ult by 7.5. So I combined the two. So it's an extra 5 seconds to begin with, and then it can go up to 7.5 seconds. So to do that math, 27.5 seconds if you've got him A5 and you've got this maxed out. I've got this right now at 6.5 seconds. I've got it with 3 promos, and he ults forever. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I just wish he could.
Great because in PvE content, it's wonderful. PvP maybe not because you expect it. PvE content, clutch.
Totally. We just need more PvE content that he's going to be relevant in because it's just gotten more narrowed. But again, you said it a few times. What he's good at, he's the best at. And that's always a huge thing in this game. That might be my perfect transition into my number 7. I hope it is. I think so. No. Well, it's a nice transition. This is going to be a perfect... That would have been the...
Yellow.
That would have been the perfect... That would have been the perfect transition into my number 6. That's too bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Lucius and why you're dumb.
Okay. Oh, the hatred, the bitterness. This is a hill I'm not defending. It's just he's at my number.
So basically, with Lucius, it is clunky to use him. So if you want to use him strictly as a dispeller, you need to make sure those ults work out phenomenally. However, I think a lot of people got Kagiri and stopped using Lucius. So they don't realize how good he is at this now. It used to be you had to hit all those things at the perfect moment because you were only knocking off. You couldn't knock it down back to 0. You could only deplete it, right? So it had to be perfect. So you had to always be executing right on the money. And I did many takeovers, and I know that, right? Right when Kagiri came out was also right when they changed how dispelling in this game worked, where you'd go back to 0 and then you'd start back from 1. For anyone that's newer in the game, the way it used to work was if he had 5 stacks of Aegis, the second phase of Semra, you would knock, he can do up to 5 dispels. You'd bring back down to 0. Then when he goes to place again, he'd be at 6. He picks up where he left off and adds 1. So if he was at 3, you knock him all off. When he goes to place again, it was at 4. So you have to be so tight and perfect with all your Lucius timings. Yeah. Now what you can actually do, you only have to hit 1 every full cycle of Aegis or every other cycle of Aegis that it's going on because because he does 5 strips, you're gonna bring him back down to 0 every time. He's never getting to 6. He's always going back down to 0. So even if you miss time, even if he gets locked out in the demonic embrace, he's way easier to use than I think people realize because Kagiri's the best at it and he came out at the same time. So he works perfectly for this now. Same like Lyra, same like Kagiri. You just have to be a little thoughtful. Because you don't have to be as conscious as you used to be and hyper attentive, you can actually lean heavily into the demonic embrace, lean much more into attack speed and DPS. Demonic embrace is where all his DPS comes from, and when he's going with demonic embrace, if you get it to line up with a Constance or a Dolores and you've got some Lord for Lucius, the damage is about as good as any hero in the game. It is Silus bonded level damage.
So this helps, brother, because I do not use demonic embrace.
Yeah, you do. So it's all about demonic embrace. So basically, you're constantly with like the Sophie's choice of like, do I want demonic embrace or do I want to let him be able to dispel? He gets a little bit of a damage boost over here, as you can see, a little extra damage, a little damage increase. It is nothing compared to what demonic embrace does, which, let me read it to you, is insane. During demonic embrace, he increases his damage by 280%, reduces his attack interval by 30. Each basic attack is guaranteed a pursuit, which, by the way, that's going to be extra damage as well. Let's continue. It gets even better. It does come with the trade-off. As you can see, you can't activate the ult because this is like, just think of it as a secondary ult. You can see it coming now. Back in the day, there was no indicator for damnation stacks. I, among other people, begged them to add it so you can see when it's coming. That will help you line up your Dolores or your Constance. Make sure he's ulting. During that demonic embrace, he gets a huge damage boost and a huge attack interval reduction. So he's going lightning quick with a lot more damage. It gets so much better. Once you get this maxed out over here, Tainted Spirit, this passive, during demonic embrace, which lasts for the duration like an ult, right? It's 20 seconds. It's as if he was ulting. He is now going to ignore 30% of all the defense, and it increases his single target damage, aka all of his damage, by 40%.
40%.
So demonic embrace, he gets.
I was way too nervous about doing it. I was way too nervous. I was like, brother, keep this ult. That was me all day.
So damage is increased by 280%. His attack interval is reduced by 30. Then as a separate, like kind of like post-equation thing, he's going to increase single target damage by another 40. And that whole time he's ignoring 30% of defense. So he's shredding through everything. He deals so much damage. You can't call him like Silus or something for a couple reasons. First off, he's not a piercer. So gear 8-3, he can shred through the boss, but you have to wait till the boss is close enough to him that he can hit it. He doesn't get the extra range since he's not a piercer and he doesn't get that effect. I really wish they'd make him marksman piercer. That'd be beautiful. And then the other thing is you have to pay a lot of attention to Demonic Embrace when it comes to timing him out with your inspiration heroes. So that's really tough. However, if he's like one of your main DPS in Guild Boss 2, especially, and this is what you guys will see when my video comes out, if you run him alongside Kagiri, forget about the ult. You never ult. You're always tracking the Demonic Embrace. You just let him run.
That's a good point.
Get him 400 attack speed or higher. Pay attention with your Constance or your Dolores, and he will do so much more damage than unless you have A3 or A5 Kagiri. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But as most of us have A0, A1, A2, he's so much better. It is insane. And then what you can do if you want to be really high level, it's just sweaty, specifically for the Aegis mode, assuming you have enough other damage, and you're not running him with Kagiri, you use him as the Dispel, and then all other modes, you never ever ult, and you just let him ride. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So is this guy to the level of Sun Wukong or Twyla? No, but he's like as good as like a Silus, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have like the perfect Silus with the Piercer Lord, this, that, and the other, and you know, Silus is going to be obviously the top of this list because he's perfect and you can control him and everything. Lucius is harder to control, but if you can throw the reins on, the damage is outrageous, and this is a lot easier to use than I think a lot of people are remembering because you kind of graduated to Kagiri and you never revisited Lucius. I love this guy. Right. I'll finally say, kind of bonkers awakenings. That's why I've been waiting on this A5 to make the video. I know it's very specific, but if you can get these awakenings, increases the damage from pursuits, which by the way are guaranteed during Demonic Embrace. That says damage dealing mode. At A3, if you need a little extra stun reliability for the first phase, that's great. If you want a little extra damage reduction, it's great. To be honest, the damage reduction is kind of a wash because you only need this in Guild Boss 2 for most things, and you're going to get better from Alistair or Volca or something like that. But then you get extra damage here, and finally at A5, during Demonic Embrace, every single time he deals damage, which by the way his attack interval drops, so he's probably dealing damage, I would say 0.7, 0.8 seconds per hit, and they're counting the double hits from pursuits as individual instances of damage. Each time it's 2%. Within like 10 or 12 seconds, he's maxed this out at 30%, 36% attack boost post-deployment, so you've got another 8 to 10 seconds of the Demonic Embrace. With that, it's crazy. So I'm very high.
I'm so glad you showed me the light to Lucius. I promise you. Well, I was getting upset at Lucius. Like, I was getting mad. And the main reason also was because there was times where I would try to get to his ult, and he would just switch to Demonic Embrace before his ult was ready. And I was like, okay, well, we're here now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the challenge that I have. But I love that idea of combining him with Kagiri and letting Kagiri do the light work while he just sticks to doing damage. Now I can see that damage I'm thinking about. Okay. So that was my pre-knowledge Lucius, everybody. My pre-knowledge Lucius. Now this is my more well-known. That's a different list for a different time. We're sticking to this list today, y'all.
Totally. I'll also say, with heavy awakenings for Lucius, the Demonic Embrace RNG, I went up against the Lucius Ingrid comp in GVG, like against that defense. It's horrible. Once I find my Lucius, I might start trying to put him in. It's very, very frustrating to go against because all of a sudden, he's just popping off.
So does he use his ultimate a little more in GVG, or does he just go with Demonic Embrace?
That's a great question. He definitely was hitting Demonic Embrace against me. I think if you built him fast enough, his ult would not come up quick enough. When I went against him,
that's what I had.
Yeah. So that's the other trade-off. So to recap why I love Lucius, everything I just said. Thank you for trying to see the light. Sorry if I was harsh. I just love this guy.
No, I'll take it because I was using him terribly. I need to know. But
then also to the other side of the coin, you're like Fastidious. You just went on and on about this is the best hero of all time. The reason he's not higher, he's not a piercer, that really goes against him. Like if he could get that extended range the way a Hex or a Silus could get, if they gave him the Hex treatment and let him be dual faction and piercer, even though he's kind of a watcher at his core, that would be humongous. He's missing that. That hurts. And then finally, he's hard to use. It's like clunky. If it's possible you hit like 10 pursuits in a row and then he's instant 5 damnations, instant demonic embrace, and you don't get it when you want it. It is annoying. So that's why he's not higher. And quite frankly, you'll see there's only one hero, I think everyone can imagine who it is, that isn't a piercer left on this list, and that's because she's the queen. Who do you have at number 6, Mike?
At number 6, so this is where I parked this other one. It's funny. I think our top 5 are the same. It's great. Well, our 5 lists, our collection of 5 is the same. Number 6 is where I parked Pelagios.
Okay.
And it was particularly because I'm big into GVG, and that's where I see him often. Whenever I see him, I just choose a different team because I hate running into Pelagios.
I think that's I think that's well said.
Yeah, like he is definitely a PvP hero. Like he's good at PvE content, but he shines in PvP because his crowd control, his damage, his true damage, his low time, his low cost of his ult. You can throw him in there with Pope Town USA and get a good thing. You can throw him in there with Yovar, get some extra range. It's just a really good, solid hero. If you get him, you're happy that you have him. Like that's a big thing to me. Are you happy that you got this
I'm
guy?
not gonna let us glaze over Pope Town USA. That's funny. Yeah. I think I obviously rated him really high too. I think the difference is, and this is what happens a lot with my guests, I put a little bit more emphasis on guild bosses and PvE, whereas a lot of guests really love GVG. So I think through that lens, I absolutely hear you. Can I go to mine because it's a nice transition?
Yes.
Okay, so I actually put Sargak this high for that reason. I find you talked a lot about Sargak, and by the way, you're correct. Our top 5 is the same, and I actually think this top 5 is kind of definitive. If any of the viewers, if any of you guys disagree, let us know. To me, the order we could discuss, and I'm sure we will. I wouldn't be surprised if we have the same order, but the top 5 is like, when I was doing it, I was like, oh, that's like the top 5. So I'd say the way I said there was a definitive top 9, I have in my mind these 6 to 9 is very much in the next group, and then the top 5 is crazy. With Sargak, he's so good in Arena too. I didn't hear you say that. I hate this guy in Arena. If you have a Gon or a Valderon or a Yovar, I kind of avoid him, even though my Arena teams have gotten a lot better. He's such a machine gun, and you talked about how you need Carnelian. In Arena, he can't get hit, except for AoE Arena, which is the one place you wouldn't use him. You could only get hit by the aura from the Scourges, but you would never use him in AoE Arena. But for single target and anti-air, he's like at 1 health the whole time, and he's the Gatling gun. He's the machine cross. He's Legolas going nuts. He's crazy. So he's so good in Arena. I gave him a big bump, and like you said, in GVG, he's really punishing. Especially, you don't know how many awakenings they're gonna have, and when people have those like A3 plus Sargak, it just destroys everything. It's very hard to time out. Finally, Gear Aid 3, second best in the whole game after Silus. And actually, he's the single best. Point. He's the single best hero in the game, better than Silus if you don't have Silus with a bond skill. So for that reason, I really have always been high on Sargak. When he was first teased, I was so high on him, and that was before like GVG I think was even in the game. This was like November 2023. I'm very happy I ended up being right. And the one place I always knew he'd be good, and he always ended up being good. I have a guide on this if people want to watch. When you get him going, because as long as he's not the last place unit, he's never going to get hit either. So it does not take long at all for him to nearly kill himself. For anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, and then we can move on, because I think a lot of these Sargak points have been made now. He's got a crazy, crazy ability. Is it here? Yes. Bellicosity. What a beautiful word. Increases attack speed by 6.
What he does.
Increases attack speed by 6 for every 1% HP loss. The effect of specialized attack is stronger when his HP is lower. He's a specialized attack hero. So basically attack speed is affecting him more potently. So a little bit of attack speed is a bigger drop, makes him go faster than on a normal hero. So for anyone that wants to do a little math with me, he's going to kill himself. He kills himself from his ult. I should have shown that as well. He reduces all his HP. Eventually, in any battle where he can't be healed, or you just have Carnelian, he will kill himself. So we're talking, he loses 99%, getting 6 attack speed each. That comes out, oh my God. So
Love it.
Google's not working, so I did the math on my phone. I was saying to Mike, I think this took so long, I figured it out in my head anyway, but he's losing 99%, 6 attack speed per percentage. I was correct. It's 594 attack speed additional. So if you build just like 300 on him, that puts him at 894. Or even a 200 additional, right? 300 total. 300 additional, now he's at 994. That's basically at the 1200 cap. It's insane. And he's got the specialized attack speed, so it's all affecting him faster. He's a single target marksman with 2.0 second attack interval. It's like every 0.5 seconds he's attacking. Disgusting.
Yeah.
You keep
Gatling gun is great damage too.
Totally. And that many hits, you're basically guaranteeing the uptime on bleed, which gets the extra ignore defense. It's crazy. He's so good. The one knock against him is he'd be so beautiful against a boss, but you can't really Carnelian a boss, and he's always going to get hit by a boss. So that's too bad. But I could see
it's way too much work to keep. It's way too much upkeep. Too much work to do. Yeah.
If ever there's a boss that can't hurt you, he will be the god. All right, that's Sargak. Sargak's on my short list. So I'm missing a ton of ancient exclusive heroes. Until recently, I only had 3. Now I think I have 5. I got Lugaru and I got Uridan. So I got 5 now, but there's so many I don't have. So I'd say Dasami's my number 1, then Carnelian, then Sargak. That's like my big 3. So we'll see.
The ones you want to get.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I'm with that.
I
just get Carnelian. Yeah,
I just think Dasami is so OP right now, and people don't realize it. And I think Dasami's got the kind of kit that is going to age like the finest. Like he's going to get better every time there's new content. He's going to get better. Anyway, this is not a Dasami list.
You'll see him in a future video.
Dang. I should hire you. Okay. Number 5. Who do you have, Mr. Mike?
Okay. This is where it starts to become challenging.
Yeah.
And this is weird because I knew this hero had to go in the top 5, even though I'm not as privy to know as much about this hero because I don't have them. And that is Lady Alexandra. I have her listed as number 5 on the list. I don't have her yet. I've experimented a little bit on test server. She feels basically like the LEGO version of Idril, which is great, but it's a lot more of a caveat to it. I want to actually get her on my account and use her extensively. So I don't have as much knowledge about her, but I know based on her kit, based on whenever I see content that I'm not doing great, and I look at the levels of the people that beat different difficulties, I see her name and I see her, and then people got her at level A5 already because they throw so-sos into her. Something is good about this hero that I can't ignore. I'm gonna figure it out too, but I was like, she's definitely got to be top tier. She can't be this far into the game to not be this top tier also.
Yeah,
this isn't a different platform.
Maybe we should just talk about her now because I got her at number 4. I've done a decent amount of testing with her, and I've seen a lot of I don't know if you've seen those GVG defense videos floating around.
Yes.
She's complete. So for people that care about GVG, she's number 1 on this list. That's like a fact. She's completely broken. So especially if you get her exclusive artifact, which I should pull up, she starts putting on these. I think they're called Marks of Indemnity. Is that correct? Oh, Marks of Enmity. But basically, if someone's wearing this mark, they do less damage to her, and she does more damage to them. And then, where does it say it? She can hit them. That's the key thing. They don't need to be in her range. Where does it state that?
I think it's the third one.
The third one?
That's it.
Oh, yeah. Here you go. If the enemies is inflicted with Mark of Enmity, the hero's basic attack and piercing precision can land extra hits regardless of the attack range, and it will just head over there. This is crazy. She can put these marks out periodically from this penetrating vision. I believe this goes down to every 30 seconds, and she can put it out with the ultimate. So already you're like, wow, she's going to put a lot of marks out unless there's a crazy amount of enemies. The only place it would really get disrupted would be like Furious Torrent. However, if I can dig this thing up, and this is a reason, if you're getting close to getting her, it's time to head into the Wisdom Forge, because holy crap, if you get Divine Justice, increases her damage, and then both the 2 ways to place Mark of Enmity, like Seal of Retribution or Ultimate, and then Penetrating Vision, you now place it on another hero. Remember, Penetrating Vision always places it on the farthest target, so that's the farthest 2 targets. For any normal content, pretty quickly, everyone's got a mark, and she's hitting everyone, and her multipliers are insane. So she's just, I was about to go to my roster to show her as if I could have her. She's just phenomenal. It's crazy. And I have to say, in a vacuum, but I actually think some people might push back in this. I don't think we can assess this in a vacuum for a reason I'm about to explain. In a vacuum, I probably would place her number 1 or 2. The reason I think she has to be 4 on my list, I couldn't put her ahead to the top 3, and I think it will make sense when I explain it, is because you need those other 3 or some other crazy heroes to ever dream of getting her. She's so impossible to obtain. So we can't grade her as if she's going to help you with Gear Aid 3. Would she be the best Gear Aid 3 hero in the game? Sure, but no one ever in the history of this game will ever get her that hasn't already beaten Gear Aid 3. That list goes for almost all content. I actually think no one's getting her till they've beaten everything. So I'm still evaluating her as that good for content to come, and the fact that like the premium endgame content in GVG, she's goated. That's why she's number 4. But you can't be like, well, actually, she'd be really good against the Styx bot. Like, it's like, what are we talking about? She'd really help you. Like, yeah, it's just not real.
On the test server, sure.
Yeah. So if you don't know, the only way to get her currently takes forever. That's why so few people have her. You need to go to the arena shop, but actually, where is it? The Apex arena shop here. You need 50,000 of these to get her. 50,000.
Oh, you need 40,000 for her and 50,000 for the awakening.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. Thank you. So it's 40,000, a little bit easier. For perspective, I finish an Overlord every single week. I don't farm Arena so aggressively. I'm at 3,300 tokens, you know?
Yeah, and I keep getting that Apex Crystal chest, so it keeps on chipping away.
Yeah, shout out to Glace. Glace is like on the grind to get her, one of the top GVG players in the game. He's at like 12K coins. The only couple people that got her, it's because they're spending endless money refreshing and using diamonds all the time in Arena, and they're like top 50 Arena players. That's the only way. There's no reliable way to get her. So that is a knock against her. It has to be. In terms of quality, though, she's like definitely top 3 in terms of quality. I knocked her. You'll see my number 3, and you can't argue with my number 3. I don't think anyone can. You're not going to argue with the top 3. So for that reason, I put her at number 4. I did originally have her at number 3, though. Fun fact. Maybe let's do your 4 and my 5, because I think they'll be the same.
Okay, so this is interesting. This is where it happens. Y'all get ready. I'm kidding. You said my 4?
I think I haven't shown my 5. I think your 4 will be the same as my 5. It's going to be pretty spicy if it's not.
This is spicy. Okay, my number 4 is actually Hex.
What?
Hex is 4 on my list. Hex is
Crazy.
4 on my list. He is undoubtedly one of the most wanted heroes on everybody's roster. He's a single target DPS beast. Suture Caprice gets him in top 4 easily. Higher if you get that thing leveled even more. I'll give you that. We can wax poetic on him, but it's not that I'm not a fan of Hex, but I don't use him in nearly as much content as I thought that I would. Because he's a magic damage dealer as well, that's not a knock on him. He's still an amazing hero. But I've only been using him in Guild Boss 2. No, I'm sorry, in Guild Boss 1. And I think like the Salil boss and Epilogue as an end-game player, like those are the ones I mainly use him on. Not to say he's not good in other options, but for what I need, that's where he fits best. He has the time to do his job. I may need burst damage at that point in time, and he can't do that as well as the other options that are on this list that you'll see. It's not that he's bad. It's that he takes time. He's being a magic damage, knocks him off some of my lists sometimes. That being said, he's essential for Guild Boss 1. His damage cannot be slept on. He can be used in other content, of course, like Simrod, special event content, etc. But I don't use him nearly as much as I thought that I would. That's the only reason that I put him at 4. That's everybody got to know. Not knocking on Hex.
I mean, I'm not.
I gotta put him at number 4 for me. That's all.
Yeah,
I love the damage he does.
I'm a little more shocked that you just. I mean, it's not like you're putting him at the bottom of your list. You're putting him number 4. He's my number 3. I think we better have the same number 2. Otherwise, you're way too high on Nyx, in my opinion. I have Nyx at number 5. I'll show that now. I figured you must have Nyx at 4. Yeah, I'm very curious to see why you have Nyx over Hex. But clearly this top 5 is pretty definitive. The reason I have Hex so high, and then I'll say why I have Nyx a little lower. These two are like both goats. They're the best in the game for what they do. Hex is like Guild Boss 2. Hex is unbelievably good, whether you run Piercer or Infernal, which are like the 2 top second meta. Like that's like the 2 second meta, like the directly off meta factions. So insane for that. Also, you can run him with Twyla, which makes Twyla so much better. I think that is worth mentioning because Twyla is like such a goat for Guild Boss 2 especially, but good for everything. So for me, he's in my APOC 1 team right now, and he's like the king of my Guild Boss 1 team, my Drake team. Aside from that, for whenever you need magic damage, he's the best in the game for single target. He really is. It's like him or Soul Cadens, depending on what you need. Most people don't have Soul Cadens. And Hex is as good.
A little harder to get.
Hex is as good, if not better, for certain things than Soul Cadens. So for Gear 8-5, Hex is the best in the game. For the top, that middle lane, managing it, Hex is like definitely the best. You can, unlike Silus, who you need a pull of Virna, if you're willing to degen enough, you'll eventually get his artifact now from the Wisdom Forge. It could take 100 forges, it could take 10,000 forges, but you know you can get it, right? That is humongous.
So much easier.
And then you talk about like Void Rift, like a Hex Silus with a Lunaria, or Hex Silus with a Raka, or Eliza, or Yovar. That's the best thing you can have in Void Rift by far. And Void Rift, I think, has become slept on nowadays because it's kind of easy compared to content we have, but that's huge. And then when it comes to just like anything else you ever need single target, like I'd say he's a little low in Arena, though you can make him work, especially if you have Twyla now. I wish Twyla got Infernal as well, so that could be like a pretty meta comp.
I agree.
But they are limited because you have to run them together off faction. Like at least one of them has to be off faction. And then with Hex, like something like Arbiter of Frost, if you get him A3, He's actually phenomenal there. If you think of like Soleil Boss, like you said, phenomenal there. So he's never going to stop scaling, I think, at least as long as you have the Sutra. He's so huge. He gives a bond skill. The bond skill he gives to Twyla is so powerful. I think that shouldn't be slept on. And then guild bosses. To me, the most important content in the game is guild bosses, and Hex is kind of the king, I would say.
He is king, yeah.
For a normal hero, like he's better than Silus for guild bosses. Like he's the best.
Yeah. Because Silus takes a lot more parts to put together. More assembly required, but you get what you get, and you're happy when you got it.
Totally, but still, Hex does more damage than Silus. He does.
Yeah.
Like, again, an A5 Hex with Sutra and bonded A5 Silus, Hex wins, right?
Yeah, and the longevity of the match, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. So do you have Nyx 3?
I have Nyx as number 3.
Okay.
Nyx as number 3. Yeah, if I put that number 2, it would have been flipping. The riots. I would have had knocks on my door.
So why did you put Nyx above Hex? We can just do it that way. And then also... Or maybe, how about this? Maybe this is smoother. I'm going to give 30 seconds on why Nyx is... People might be like, how the heck is Nyx in top 5? Let me give 30 seconds on that, and then I'm sure you're going to have a lot more to say than I do. Essentially, Nyx has a top 5 exclusive artifact in the game. It's a plug-and-play, broken good artifact. She has top 5 or 10 best awakenings for any normal hero in the game. Straight off the A1, 5-second duration on the ult. On the A3, rage every time she kills an enemy. She kills enemies non-stop. And then the A5, half the time she deals any damage with her basic attack, which is all her damage, she's doubling up. For all those reasons, she's such in a league of her own for AoE piercing damage. I would argue it's not in demand right now. That's why she's not higher. But for what she does, she's definitively the best in the game. Why the heck did you put her over Hex, though?
Over Hex. For the reasons you just listed and then some. I'm going to go through my list, which includes most of what you just said, but I got some more. Stay tuned. Don't you click away. All right, hear me out. Nyx got to be in top 3. I know everyone wants Hex here, but I'm about you out. I'm reading this. I wrote this. It's like a paragraph. First off, Nyx is the best AoE marksman in the game. Easily. She's very accessible. She's easy to get. With a Piercer Lord, she can reach 5 tiles ahead of her position. Further, if you're including the splash damage from her hits, she can beat low awakening in grid teams, in flying, and AoE confidently into Overlord rankings if you have her at A3. Gotta include that in there because A3 is really where her kick kind of takes off. And she can get her rage back and get unlimited ults essentially. And she can dominate damage in 2 of the 3 arena challenges. Of the 3 areas, the only one you don't use her in a single target. I have her at 2 of the other ones, and I can get to Overlord confidently. Like, I'm not like focused. I'll just tap auto and go make a sandwich, and Nyx has done the job. I'm making the sandwich in this case. Like, no joking that. And of course, like I don't want to do the comparison like Hex isn't used as much in arena teams because that's not what he's focused on. She is the most needed hero in my personal opinion in Pelagios Torrent Codex. She's the most needed heroes. You can get lords to fill the gaps of all the other stuff. You can get other heroes to do damage, but her artifact rivals doesn't necessarily beat, but it rivals Hex's in how much an artifact skyrockets a hero's potential. It makes her night and day better. Like, look at she gets AoE damage. All of her attacks are AoE, except I think like the dagger coming back, which is also an attack too. And she gets penetration during her ultimate. During those arena setups, her ultimate is going on non-stop. You literally can have it to where her ultimate is always ready. If you time it right and you're working against the right teams, it could be almost ready.
Actually, even the dagger coming back is AoE.
Oh, even that's AoE. So it's just 100% of everything. She's just cooking. Like I said before, also she's got a new skin coming on the way. So that's a big thing. You know, just adding that in, a little razzle dazzle. And at A3, her ultimate lasts half a freaking day. It could be essentially 100% uptown. I just mentioned that. If there's endless mobs to kill, if they really, I know this is a big if, but let's be honest, it's going to happen in this game. If they release an infinite mob or horde more in this game, a legitimate one, we're not talking about Tide yet, legitimate, like actual control your heroes and use. And I can use platform heroes. Nyx is the first hero I'm going to be choosing, that people are going to be choosing. The only reason, and you're going to laugh at this is my hot take line, get ready. The only reason people are more happy to see Hex than Nyx is because Hex looks like Joaquin Phoenix, and Nyx doesn't have a video when you get her. That's the main reason what I'm saying there.
He looks like Heath Ledger. He doesn't look like Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. I just picked the funniest name I could think of.
That's Joaquin Phoenix is a funnier name, that's for sure. Okay, very, very quick rebuttal, because I'm sure we'll spend a minute on the top two. I don't disagree with the word you said. I think, again, this is just coming down to priorities. In my opinion, she actually falls off a cliff at the very end of the game, depending on what you care about. So for me, she doesn't fit onto any of my arena teams. I don't have any Piercer Lords, so I don't use her in GVG. So she's useless for PvP, which I know is like a huge, jewel in her crown, or, feather in her cap, whatever you want to say. That's not to say it's all about my account, but I do think there's a lot of accounts where she actually has no play there. And also, like you said, she is a counter in anti-air to Ingrid. She can be a nice counter for a lot of things in AoE. However, she's only a counter. She's not the main team. So she's still, as good as she is, right? It'd be like if we're talking about Lugaru or something, or Sargak. Yeah. As good as they are, I guess Sargak for anti-air actually does count. But you know what I'm saying? It's still like the off meta. Even if it's the immediately off meta, it's still off meta. So that, and even with GVG, she's not on any of like the top 3 or 4 defenses. It's right after that. So as good as she is, I think that hurts. Furious Torrent, it's undeniable. She's the best here in the game by literally a mile. Even her base promo artifact is crazy. I wanted to show people this artifact when you get it max, 25% damage. So basically almost equal to the, what do they call it? The Sharpshooter's Crest. Come in with 20% penetration on all damage during the ultimate. Keep in mind, an A3 Nyx or higher is always ulting, like you said. So I do love her. I'd say Nox against her, you kind of need Awakenings. Hex, you really don't. A3 changes him, but you don't need it. You kind of need that A3. I will say I'm saving. I have her at A2 now, and I'm saving up my coins for when she comes to the Stone Shop, the Awakening Shop, hopefully. She is that good. I just think it's just about the content in the game. We don't really need the AoE piercing damage that much. Something like Void Rift, you want Hex for the single target. You don't want Nyx. Something like Campaign, any AoE works in Campaign. You really want the single target like Hex. So that's kind of what it comes down to.
If you can get to. Yeah.
And for any normal non-big spender, all your best resources are coming from the guild bosses, and she is unusable there. So that's a huge knock against her. But obviously, phenomenal. I am curious to see if we have the same 1 and 2. I mean, we know they're the same. So we can say now the groups clearly, I think, are the bottom 6, besides your mistake with Lucius. I forgive you. Then there's 9 through 6. Then there is 5 through 3, or 3 through 5, 6 through 9. And then there's the top 2, right?
Yeah.
So the top 2, who do you have in number 2?
Okay, this is funny because I kept finding these to bounce back and forth on. We know who they are.
Yeah.
One shoots arrows, one shoots bigger arrows. So but I'm going to say my number 2 is going to be Hatssut. My number 2 is Hatssut.
So we are the same.
Okay, good. I say Hatssut because she is the best, in my term, the best utility marksman in the game. She is the mob solution. She's the enemy softener extraordinaire. She's been broken since the day she stepped in the tire, so let's be real about that. She's being able to spawn and deal free damage for 40 seconds, 50 seconds if she's A3, and just be invisible, just be unhit. She can get hit by AoE, but she's not going to be. That's the video we need to see, the truth, because this is what happens to all your enemies. They can't hit her for 50 seconds. She summons with her ult basically almost 100% rating. She can undermine Maul attacks in GVG by bounce killing the fool that's behind him, which is a really useful tactic to being able to beat Maul teams. She cuts the shields off to make easier kills. She has a smart ult, that's what I call it, that only pops when enemies are in range of the ultimate. It's not just, a throwaway ult that happens because she's max range, which I love that about her. So she prioritizes escaping heroes in GVG. The only reason she's not neck and neck with Silus is that she is not a piercer hero. But she's missing out on that damage potential, like an extra 50 to 60% damage boost depending on the lore that you have, particularly Yovar, because you get the 45% over 60 seconds, and then the extra 50% of stats boost. So that's going to range in the 50 to 60% range. But honestly, for her in game, I see why they didn't put her in Piercer Faction, because she already does the job she does so well. If she did have Piercer Faction, she would be number 1.
Yeah, so someone like Lucius, I think there's really no excuse he's not dual faction. With Hatssut, she doesn't need it at all. Like, she is a nightmare. Really she's all about spamming those basics and getting the ult up and cycling. She's so crazy. I know some people are going to have her at number 1. I agree with every point you made. What it really comes down to is Silus is good at everything you just said. Hatssut might be better at some of those things, but Silus can do all of that stuff, I guess, besides like AoE Arena. But Silus is still awesome in GVG, even though I would still obviously put Hatssut above him. He's still phenomenal in anti-air, at least as good as Hatssut, right? So if you try to think of all the special Hatssut things, Gear Raid 5, the top right corner, Hatssut's so good, it's so much better, so much better than Nyx, it's crazy. But Silus can still do his left side thing. So he's got an answer for almost every Hatssut thing, even places like Gear Raid 5 where she's better, or in my opinion, GVG where she's better. Silus is at least right there. What Silus has that Hatssut doesn't have is boss content. She's useless in boss content. The only boss you can use her in at all is Furious Torrent, and she's still really outclassed because she can't even touch the boss. Even her bounces aren't going to make it over there because there's too many fishies. So Silus is like goated in Furious Torrent and goated in Healer Codex because his kit's broken. Why is he good at Healer Codex? I don't know. Amazing in Sticks because his kit's broken. He doesn't even do that many hits, but he puts out that much DBS.
He's Silus, though.
He's the best boss deleter in the game. Like, even though he's not maybe Hex level for GB1, he's insane. Even for GB2, you know, he might not be Twyla, but he's insane. He's not maybe Sun Wukong, but so he's got an answer for every single piece of content besides like AoE Arena. So that's why Silus gets this. This obviously comes with the disclaimer. This is bonded Silus, right? But that's what this list is saying at the hero's proper potential. We're not assuming A5 for every hero, but if you play the game long enough, eventually everyone will get it. So for some of you, you might be screaming at the screen. It might not have happened yet in a year plus, but it will eventually happen. We're talking about bonded Silus. He is that good. They do his banner a lot too. Him and Vierna get like 3 banners a year, which is certainly something. So eventually everyone will get a bite at that apple and they'll get a nice juicy result. So I actually don't have much to say about Silus. He just, I guess if anyone wants to know why he's so good, especially if you're a new player, he's got a thing in his kit called Soul Sniping. This allows him to ignore 50% of the target's defense. Cool. We love ignoring defense, kind of like what we talked about with Sargak. Gets a lot cooler. During his ultimate, he now ignores 100% of the defense. Why doesn't it say that? What the heck? Oh, here you go. Oh, I clicked on soul sniping. So you can see if it's just soul sniping. But actually during this, it's just ignores it. So they don't even have to say it, just all the defense, all the magic res, anything that could get in his way, with his case, just defense. So it's like he's dealing true damage, but he's critting. And that's like only him and I believe Lyra at A5. So Silus at A0 with the bond skill. Actually, not even with the bond skill. He can always do it. But sorry, this is my problem. I'm going to the gallery as if my 900 pulls for Lyra got me a Lyra. They didn't. So for Lyra to do it, she's the only other hero in the game, I believe, that can ignore all the magic res or defense and crit. So it's like true damage and you're critting. That takes Lyra being A5, right? A5, spamming her magic res reduction, ignoring the extra 70, so 100 total. Silus is doing that even without Vierna. So why do you need Vierna to make him so broken? With that bond skill, every single time he's ulting, he's doing double hits. It says 100% damage, but it's just a second arrow. So it's 2x on everything. It's a the calculation for the damage in this game is very messy and stupid. With Silus, with his bond skill, it's 2x. It is a full 2x on everything he would have done. And this is during the entire effect of his ultimate on all his soul sniping, which, by the way, is every hit during his ultimate. So,
gorgeous.
Yeah.
The damage is so consistent. I mean, like you said it before, he's the single most reliable boss killing marksman in the game by a country mile. If you want a hero and also he has a much more reliable. I would say that. I know what I'm going to get when I pick Silus. I'm going to get that enemy health bar deleted. That's what's going to happen. He's a threat in GVG. He's a threat in PvP. He's a threat in every piece of content. It comes to the point where every piece of content you play, you think, can I use Silus in this? That's literally the thought process when you're figuring out if you can beat content. Will Silus work here? That's the way you actually come out.
Or if you're me, should I not use Silus because that'd be boring?
He's that goated.
Yeah. I would just say like he's consistent. So even someone like Hex, where yes, if you have his exclusive, the cards come way faster, but there's still RNG to what the cards are. With Hatssut, it's like they need to go into her range for it to all work, which in some places is a benefit. But with Silus, it's especially if you're manually doing it. He ults when you want him to ult. He deletes everything. It's easy. It's mindless. He is a marksman, so he's a platformer. So he's a marksman, so he's got 3x4 range or 3x5 with the Lord. Compare that to the other comparable heroes like him. The equivalent to Silus is Twyla. Twyla can only be used in her special Twyla places against bosses because she's a one tile in front melee unit. You want to have those platforms taken up by your best units that can reach absolutely everything. It kind of is night and day. As high as I am on Twyla, Silus is like Twyla, plus he does everything because he's a marksman, because he has that range, because he can sit on platforms. So I think we can.
I'm happy when I see that ult go off.
There
he goes.
Well, there we go, guys. That is it. To recap, I think we'll agree there's a clear tier here, this bottom 6. Then we've got the just outside the top 5 for you, Pelagios to Sargak, for me, Sargak to Setram. And then we had the exact same top 5, but clearly this top 2 kind of stands alone. We had the exact same number 1, the exact same number 2. Any final thoughts, Mike?
I wish these heroes for all of you, especially the top 5. Maybe you know what, top 3, because 4 and 5 will be a little mixed. Yeah, sorry about Lady Alex. You get her 1 year, or you can get pictures of her.
Year. Yeah, guys, if you made it to the end of the video, you clearly like me and or Mike. Do us a favor. Remember this video. Zoom in. Remember this video. Comment on this video the day you get Lady Alexandra. I'm curious what year it will be.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Mike, I think this video is really going to blow up in 2027.
I think it will when YouTube gets outclassed by something else.
Yeah. Everyone's on like Kick Mobile or something, and we're still your old guys on YouTube like, I got Lady Alex.
What do you mean 80 views?
All right, amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, Mike. Everyone, Mike's information and everything will be all over the screen and in the comments and the description. Go check that guy out. Happy New Year to you, sir, and I hope to see you really soon.
Same to you, my man. It has been an honor, and I love doing this. And make sure y'all watch the whole series. I'm in this one. That's great. Ronaldo's in the first one. You're gonna see some more coming. So do stay tuned.
We got some spicy guests lined up. Don't worry.
Look! I gotta give you the emote for this. I gotta send it just for this video.
Yeah.
Spicy emote.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Mike's. Share with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Peace.
Fastidious.
It's a Crach tax, baby.
What a face to freeze on. Oh my god.
Google can't be found. Where are you, Google?
Literally what? I'm having every problem today. This can go in the bloopers maybe at the end. What hasn't gone wrong today?
Leo, you gotta go into the living room, son. I love you.
That can go to the bloopers too.
Yeah, he puts his head under the door and shouts, like he puts his lips under the door and shouts through the threshold. And I can see like a lip and a fat finger.
Papa.
Yeah, Daddy, can I come in the office? He wants to feature in every video.
We can feature at the end if you want. I think it will be like 70 minutes after we edit it, which I think it will be like perfect. I was hoping for an hour, but I knew we would yap a lot.